Our presentation is over Ronald Reagan, and as you watch this, tweet out 3 different things you've learned, and there are also questions that you must tweet out during our presentation. The Cold War lasted from about 1945 to 1989. The beginning of the tension began between the United States and the Soviet Union at the Yalta Conference. The Cold War was truly a struggle and was constantly building tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was a struggle between democracy and communism. The Iron Curtain speech was a speech given by Winston Churchill in Fulton, Missouri. It praised the United States and talked about their democracy, and also talked about an iron curtain of communism that the Soviet Union was trying to drape across Eastern Europe. The Truman Doctrine was basically just a doctrine issued by the United States to offer its aid to any other democratic countries. This slide just gives an overview of dates of when the Soviet Union tried to take over and introduce communism into other parts of Eastern Europe. The Soviet Union officially dissolved on Christmas Day in 1991. Many people didn't think that Reagan was officially involved, but others think it was because of him that the war dissolved, and he was also to help keep nuclear war from happening. Tweet the answer to this question right now. A big part of Reagan's presidency was what was called Reaganomics. These policies were created by Reagan to help the United States economy by introducing a 25% tax cut. Reagan used supply-side economics, which used tax cuts as incentives for businesses and individuals to produce goods. Reagan did this to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. This allowed Reagan to tax the wealthy more than any other part of the nation. He thought they should be taxed less for many reasons, and one of which was they would be able to spend more and invest in the economy. Reagan had 4 parts to his economic plan, and they were to reduce the growth of government spending, reduce the federal income tax and capital gains tax, reduce government regulation, and control the money supply to reduce inflation. Because of this, 20 million new jobs were created, inflation dropped from 13.5% to 4%, and unemployment fell from 7.6% to 5.5%. Many of Reagan's policies can still be seen in politics today. These are mainly used by conservatives and Republicans. They support Reaganomics because they believe in the lower taxes and less government interference with small businesses. On August 12, 1961, Germany was separated into West Germany and East Germany. This wall stretched over 100 miles and wrapped around West Germany. It went in many different directions, and over several years it had different modifications added to it. The main reason for the Berlin Wall was because East and West Germany were creating many economic issues for each other. People would often flee to the other side in lieu of war conditions. This wall symbolized the Cold War and communism, not only in Germany but also in the entire continent. With the fall of the wall, it marked the end of communism in Germany and Europe.
Today I say, as long as this gate is closed, as long as this scar of a wall is permitted to stand, it is not the German question alone that remains open, but the question of freedom for all mankind. In the 1950s, Khrushchev predicted, "We will bury you." But in the West today, we see a free world that has achieved a level of prosperity and well-being unprecedented in all human history. In the communist world, we see failure. There is one sign the Soviets can make that would be unmistakable, that would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Near the end of the 1980s, many demonstrations against the government and the system in East Germany began. This marked the beginning of the tearing down of the wall. Reagan's policies in the Middle East came in the 1980s due to his support for the Jewish state of Israel at the expense of many Muslim Palestinians. Reagan sent several thousand U.S. Marines to Beirut, Lebanon in 1982 following the Israel attack of the PLO headquarters. Due to terrorist attacks in the Middle East, Reagan launched a missile campaign on Libya and bombed the personal residence of Libya's ruler, Muammar Gaddafi. During Reagan's presidency, many Americans were being presented with strong anti-drug propaganda. Reagan was known as the "Just Say No" president for his campaigns against recreational drugs. Reagan made several speeches regarding recreational drug use in the United States. One of the reasons why the Reagan administration began their war on drugs was to cut off the money to supply revolutions to groups in South America, Middle East, and Asia. One thing that kept Americans from supporting the Reagan administration and their war on drugs was the fear they had of the regimes in South America. The real problem here is not drug use, but the existence of drug cartels, narco-terrorism, and political groups that are using their money to fund these private wars. Reagan was a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, but saw that some assault weapons were not weapons that were suitable for protecting the home. The Firearm Owners Protection Act was signed by Reagan on May 19, 1986. This amended the Gun Control Act of 1968. This bill ended up passing in the House by 2 votes due to a handwritten letter from Ronald Reagan to Congressman Scott Klug. The Brady Bill was named after James Brady, who was wounded during an assassination attempt on President Reagan's life. This required that a background check be conducted for individuals purchasing a firearm. It was signed into effect by President Bill Clinton. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act were signed into law by President Bill Clinton. They banned certain semi-automatic firearms with 2 or more specific design features, and it also prohibited the manufacture of ammunition magazines that held over 10 rounds. Reagan's policies and thoughts of gun control can be still seen today. President Obama uses Reagan's thoughts and policies in his involvement in the banning of guns.